Alright, I'll get to the main event numbers at Orleans in a little bit, or eventually. First, people have been asking about the trivia for players with 2,000 hits, no All-Star games. I didn't want to ruin it in case Jade was going to be in the room again. I didn't want him to see the answers in the video before I could ask him in person. I haven't seen him in about a week though, so my guess is his time in Vegas ended and he went back home. So, 2,000 hits, no All-Star games. Former Mets great Todd Zeile, who was in 2 episodes of King of Queens, by the way. Former Mets great Tony Phillips, mostly known for his time with the A's, but he was on the Mets. Orlando Cabrera, on a lot of teams, mostly known with the Expos. And Juan Pierre, who, by the way, got over half of those hits in a 5-year span. He had an amazing 5-year span once. He averaged for 5 years once, playing all 162 games, 201 hits, 58 steals, and only 37 strikeouts. No All-Star games. It was the steroid era. You had to hit home runs or nobody cared. Alright, I'm crossing. Shout outs. Ran into Catwoman on the walk to Planet Hollywood. That was actually pretty fortuitous. I almost never leave that exit of Paris, but I had barely filmed before the shift, and I thought if I get outside as quickly as possible into valet, maybe there's no music outside. There was, but because I left that door, I walked outside right next to Catwoman. In the room, a guy from Cincinnati. Sorry, I forgot your name, but I remember the Cincinnati part of the conversation. And who else? There was someone else. There's someone else in the room. I'll see you later. There's going to be another seat in my room because I got the Cronut flavor of the month. Can I cross the street? Cronut flavor of the month. Every month there is a flavor. It lasts the entire month, and then it's discontinued forever. So you only have 1 month to get it. I did not want that lemon curd and olive oil ganache in June, so I had to wait till July. This is, where's the picture? Here's the picture. Blackberry jam cheesecake. Usually don't like cheesecake when the jam is on top, but I'll try the Cronut. Gonna go to Walgreens, get some milk. I'm out in my room, and then I will film me trying it in my room and tell you some other things. Oh, something very interesting might be in the title, or probably at least in the thumbnail. You'll see when I'm in my room. All right, I'll tell you here in Flamingo Valet, the guy. It's funny because yesterday's video, for me at the time of filming, was the story about the guy who left of his own volition officially, but was like inches away from getting kicked out, who wanted me to break rules. He was in the room tonight. It was interesting. So we were down to, I think, four or five tables. Every 1-3 no limit game, there were 3 of them, each had 1 seat. And I saw him come in, and I heard the floor say, each has 1 seat, you could pick. He wasn't there the day of the happenings. So he was aware that something happened. He didn't know what the guy looked like. So it was fortuitous. Someone's player card at my table wasn't working. So when I called the floor over to do a manual entry on the player's card, I said, that and that guy you just sat, that's the guy from the story. So there was quite the close watch on him. It's actually a lot more pleasant. I wasn't on, he didn't pick my table, and then eventually I was dealing the double board game, and his table broke and he came over, and I wasn't even sure if he remembered me. And eventually he apologized for the other night. He said, oh, I'm trying to balance this on the railing here, but I don't want it to fall. He said he was drunk. Not that it's an excuse, but that's why he was acting the way he was, and he apologized. Okay. And although he did do, it wasn't nearly as loud, it wasn't nearly as severe. He did try to change that game also. He wanted me to deal another game, and it wasn't really so much directed at me this time. Like, other players didn't want to change the game. By the way, that game had changed already. It was started as a 4-card PLO double board bomb pot game. It became 5, and he was trying to change it again. And this was mostly happening as I was leaving the table, like my last couple hands. But like, usually what happens is like one guy will say okay, most people will stay silent, and if you're staying silent, you're not saying okay, and that's a no, and it's just not gonna happen. And apparently after I left, he was like really adamant, especially to the few people who were actually saying no, not just being silent and saying, you know, saying nothing as their no, to the point where like a lot of people would call it bullying. and the floor was nearby, and said like, you can't bully people, like it's clear not everyone at the table wants to change the game. And he was like on the verge of getting kicked out, and then he left of his own accord. So that happened. Well, it wasn't nearly as entertaining as the other night, but similar things kind of happened. So yeah, long night. I did get overtime, the smallest amount of overtime I could possibly get, you know, with the rounding that Caesars does. I got 15 minutes of overtime. I'll take it. And yeah, there were 3 games for a long time. It was odd. It's like 3 tables were on the verge of all breaking for hours. One double board bomb pot game was getting down to like 4 people, then people would show up. The other would get down to like 4 people, and then like a guy who wasn't rebuying would decide to rebuy, and then another guy would show up, and people would switch games. And No Limit had this really fun guy show up really late. That was on the verge of breaking. My last few hands I dealt at the No Limit table. Guy in the 8 seat who would have been fun to have like a half hour there, because we were talking Tony Kukoc at the table. Didn't expect to be talking about him, but he knew some basketball. We could have had some nice conversations. Robert, that's the one. That's the other shout out. Robert was in the room, and he was talking baseball trivia, some Mets Angels, because he likes the Angels, also the Mets. I like the Mets, so we were talking Mets Angels. Bartolo Colon came up, of course. Somehow Nolan Ryan didn't. Bartolo Colon came up. Gary Matthews Jr. came up. Didn't expect to be talking about Gary Matthews Jr. nor Tony Kukoc today, but that was awesome. Robert's dad was also in the room on the other table. Dealt to him briefly, so that was cool. Fun night. When I get back, I will give you a review of the Cronut. I've never had one in my life. I've known about them, but I'm not in Caesar's Palace that much. And until this pizza place in Paris, which like it was under construction when I left last year in August, so this wasn't going on in Paris until it changed. So until I've been back in March. So I've never had one of these Cronuts, although I'm aware of this 1-month system they do. So I'll give you the review, and I'll also talk about the Orleans main event when I'm back in my room. All right, the Cronut is very good. Let me try to give you a cross section of this. So it's like, yeah, it's a croissant donut. I'm not really seeing the croissant part. It's like donut, but the outside is like crunchier. It's not very crunchy, but much crunchier than a donut. And yeah, the filling, you see that cheesecake ganache mostly from this side, and you see the blackberry jam mostly from this side. This is very good. So we'll see what flavor August is. I'm gonna have at least one more of these. Also probably get a few for some people who might not be aware of it, but I think they would like it. Also, I want to talk to you a little bit about, yeah, the Orleans main event. So it's interesting because last year the Sunday special was 300. It was 200 plus 100. So if you use the add-on at any point, you paid 300. Now it's 300 plus 100. You know, the buy-in is 300. If you use the add-on, that's an extra 100. So it's 400 total. And we've been like doing slightly more. It seems like for people who frequent Orleans, 300 to 400, they are like largely inelastic. It's the same thing to them. There aren't a lot of people who were playing it when it was 300 total to buy in and add-on. Buy in and add-on. It didn't seem like there were a lot of people willing to play at 300, but not at 4. It seems like they're the same people. They'll just pay an extra 100. The main event was 600 last year. Now it's 800, and I'll see the numbers later when I go in, because all the day ones are done. I'm going into work in a few hours for day 2, which will be tomorrow's video, but seems like there was some threshold between 600 and 800 that got crossed, and not nearly as many entries, I don't think, this year. If we got the exact same number of entries, it was going to be over 1.5 million in the prize pool, and I don't think it got close to that. So yeah, interesting. We'll probably never know for sure. You would really need to ask a lot of people about the price points and get some honest answers, and I don't think anyone's doing that, and it's debatable whether you would even get the honest answers. But yeah, you know, people have been saying, oh, tourism is down. I don't know. I didn't notice it. It might be, it might not be. Someone asked me specifically about people from Australia in the comments, and I didn't really have an answer. Meeting a lot of people from the UK, meeting a lot of people from Canada, and I didn't feel like there were massive amounts of people last year I was meeting from Australia. I've met some this year. I don't know if it's less, and that's still only the people I'm interacting with. Like, people could come in from Australia, like only play at Win and Aria. I would have no idea. So I don't know, just based on like the guarantees that we've been passing. I think there was one tournament early in the summer that missed the guarantee. Same thing happened last year, which like bound to happen at some point, because just because the WSOP Day 1 is happening doesn't mean everyone's in town already. Like, a lot of people have their vacations mid to late June. So yeah, an event in late May, it's like not shocking that you missed the guarantee. Pretty sure that was the only one. Like 200 events about at the Orleans. Pretty sure up to this point in the summer, only one missed the guarantee. Even the ones that start slow. I remember that Omaha 8 tournament. I think we only had like 65 people when it started. I think we needed 95 to meet the guarantee. And we had like 215 when I left, and registration was still open. So even if it's not like a crazy hectic day, we're still like getting a lot of entries. So yeah, it seemed, I don't know, just expected bigger numbers for the main event. But yeah, I have no idea if the plan next year is to bring it back to 6 or keep it 8, increase it even more. Have no idea. But I'm curious what the number of entries would be like had it stayed at 6, because there must have been at least a few people, maybe not massive amounts of people thinking this, but like maybe when it's 600 you were willing to play the Orleans main event. Maybe now that it's 8, that's a little much for like one event. Maybe you're thinking like, okay, 800, I could play the main at Orleans, or I could play a Sunday special at Orleans and a daily at the WSOP, you know, in the ballroom above the Bally's Poker Room, the Normandy Room, I think it's called. And I don't even know what the buy-in of that is. Maybe you could get 2 of those. Maybe you could get like 3 tournaments with pretty big fields and pretty good, you know, top payouts. Or you could play 1 bullet in the main event. So there are probably some people thinking that way. Yeah, 800's a lot. I mean, I'm not even comfortable paying 600 for one event. I've paid 100 a couple times since I started the channel. That's about it. So yeah, 600 to 800, nice in theory. You know, if we get the exact same amount of entries, we get a lot more money in the prize pool. That's cool, but I don't know. Seemed like number of entries was down, and I'm very curious when I go in today. You'll see in the next video, but when I go in like a matter of 3 or 4 hours, see how many total entries we got, and then multiply that by 700, that's the total prize pool. So just wanted to talk about that. Mention the guy who returned to PH, mention the shout outs and other things. Oh yeah, I mentioned a little baseball. And at the beginning of this video, I guess, that was many hours ago for me, but that's gonna be a wrap. What, today was Saturday? Today was the day 44 video, so at the bottom, what, 41 of 44 days? And the streak is up to 3. Still putting it up there, even though the streak largely doesn't matter anymore. 41 of 44 days, closing in on the total days record, because 46 to tie, 47 to win. And remember, rice is a spoon food.